This is going viral. It's a massive story. This seemingly unknown guy named Nicholas Decker posted this article, which now has 9.2 million views with 14,000 responses and 5,300 retweets, saying, quote, "When must we kill them?" Where he wrote an essay that says, because of what Donald Trump is doing, the question must be asked among those who oppose Trump, when will they decide to physically murder him and everyone else? Well, the first thing I would say is, when must we kill them? The answer is never. That is not the way we handle politics in this country, no matter what you think is going on. There is nothing in this country right now that rises to the level of needing political violence. And I said this during Biden's administration as well. When people were on the right were saying, how do we know when it's gone too far? They're arresting Trump's lawyer. I say, we're going to have an election and we're going to win, and Trump's going to win the popular vote. And that will show that the people are awake and we're going to do this right. And we did. The Democrats have now realized they're on the wrong side of history. For people like Bill Maher, what has he done? He had a meeting with Trump. He came out and said, you know what? Trump was a nice guy. Wow, yeah. I can't believe it. He started moderating his speech. Charlemagne the God, what did he do? Oh, you know what? Maybe Trump isn't a fascist. For these middle of the road default libs, as soon as Trump won the popular vote, they said, uh-oh, I'm on the wrong side of history. But for the hardcore progressives, for the far left, there's no coming back from where they went. So they have no choice but to carry on. And that's why they write things like this. So again, this argument that he's making is quite literally the Mangione effect, now being written and shared far and wide by the left, advocating for, quote, evil has come to America. The president's administration is engaged in barbarism. And it goes on to make largely what you describe as Trump's attack on the institutions. Right. The funny thing is, if you read this paragraph largely from as if this guy was a conservative, it aligns pretty similarly.
The first paragraph does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, imprisoning your political opponents like the Democrats did to Trump and his lawyers and the people who tried to help Donald Trump and his advisors. The thing is, the Trump supporters never did decide to go out and murder or kill anybody. Nobody even died on January 6th. As bad as January 6th was, a riot happened at the Capitol that should not have happened. But that was after
somebody died.
Yeah. No Trump supporter killed anybody.
Correct.
To clarify.
Yep.
So the right did not, even when they committed the worst violence from the right we've seen, and I'm going to clarify, the right is a fake term. Let's say Trump supporters, the Trump base. When this story came up, I did some digging. I asked ChatGPT, who commits more political violence, left or right? What did it say?
No answer.
The right.
Oh.
Substantially. And so I said, okay, define the right. And what did it say? Anti-government. It said
isn't that the
anarchist
left right now?
Indeed. And it said anarchist. And it said neo-Nazi. And it said white nationalist. And I said, some of those factions disagree with each other. How are they the right? The definition given by academics to define the right as violence, they took a bunch of random groups and called it the right. Neo-Nazis and libertarians are at the opposite ends of the spectrum. Yeah. They despise each other. But these academics call them both the right. Sovereign citizens who believe that they are free from government control are at the opposite end of the spectrum from neo-Nazis who believe the government should have full authority and control over people on a racial identitarian basis. Yet the academics will combine them. Mm-hmm. So I asked it, let's clarify. Pro-Trump, the conservative mainstream faction of right-wingers that we describe it, no violence. None.
I have literally gone all the way to the mat since I covered the assassination attempt in Butler on my live stream the day that it happened. And I have gone all the way to the mat and said that for anyone that feels like somebody missed or that the world could have been better had someone not missed, which I find to be vulgar and disgusting. Nobody that feels that way has any idea how horrific it would have been for the fabric of our country. That nobody understands what would have happened to our country in the weeks, months, and years that followed that had anyone succeeded in assassinating one of our political candidates. Mm-hmm. And that political violence is never, ever, ever the answer.
Well, we even had David Brooks in the New York Times today calling for an uprising against Trump and Trumpism. He said, what is happening now is not normal politics. We're seeing an assault on the fundamental institutions of our civic life, things we should all swear loyalty to, Democrat, Independent, or Republican. He's talking about Harvard, and he's talking about the NIH and USAID, all of these things that have completely lost.
Didn't Barbara Baxter just call for taking to the streets too?
Well, they all do it. Maxine Waters
went out and gave a speech and said, take to the streets, rise up.
Yeah, here
That
it
was,
is.
I thought that was Maxine Waters a while
It was
ago.
Maxine. I'm sorry. Thank you, Maxine Waters.
I
Thank
stole
you.
it from you. It's okay.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
she gave
true.
the answer first.
She said it before. So did Kamala Harris. It won't stop, and it's not going to stop.
Which actually makes me want to push back on your Mangione effect, because I feel like I've seen the same type of violent rhetoric of you need to rise up, you need to do these things before Trump was assassinated, because we were all saying that what led to Trump, well, not assassinated, but before Trump was shot, because once he was, we were saying, look at all the things that the people on the left, especially the Democratic nominee for president, has said, which has led to this political violence. So I don't think it's the Mangione effect. I think that that's a part of it, but I think it's this left-wing desire to scare people into thinking that it's the end of the Constitution and rise up. And that came from the political, the 2024 political campaign.
Just to clarify, the Mangione effect is just to describe an uptick in public support for violence following the assassination.
It's a step function up.
So
Right?
like an
It's-
there's
you
been
had
polling
a,
that
So it's a
back to-
it's a subset of all of what you're describing.
Okay.
It is not right. So it just basically, after the CEO was killed, we saw public conversations that were supportive of violence
I mean, we saw those after the assassination attempt as well
on Trump.
on Trump.
Yes.
Right. They're calling it the Mangione effect because he's become a saint figure to the left. They use his photo, and they make it literally. They
the
make memes of him as
candles.
I'm
saints.
going to
Right.
keep saying it's not the left. It's the younger generations. I mean, it might be more left, maybe.
But how does that?
But by and
does that
large, younger
differentiate
generations
itself?
are more left historically, because when what do they say? Under 30 and you've got a heart, you've got to be a liberal. Over 30 and you've got a brain, you got to be a conservative.
I don't
It's
think
like an
that's-
old shtick.
But
I
that's
don't think
not
currently
true.
true.
And
But that's-
I
that's
agree.
never-
I
that's
agree.
never-
He
that's-
made
that's
huge
never
gains
been
with
true.
Gen Z, and that's because Gen Z decided that the left was not serving them. They're educated, they're smart, they're intelligent. If he doesn't if he doesn't serve them, they're going to turn on him too.
Gen
right? Like,
Z is seeing a resurgence in quote, like literal quote, faith in Jesus. So
yes, no, I agree.
I actually recorded a segment on this earlier. Trevor Noah came out and said he believes that everything will get worse if the church goes away, and that people need church. And I was surprised to hear him say it.
We need a moral.
definitely
We need a
true.
moral compass.
Among-
we need morality, and a church is a pretty good vector for instilling morality in a population.
Among Gen Z, they have the highest surge in faith in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they are. That's absolutely true.
So like boomers are the lowest actually, which is interesting. 66% of boomer females and 62% of boomer males.
Everybody looked at me
They say, "Are you a boomer? How old are you?"
by like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations.
What a boomer thing to say.
Happy
And then
birthday.
actually, I think I can just pull this up and
I mean,
can
that's
find it.
definitely true. Just judging from my family and like my parents' generation. My father eventually became born again, but my parents' generation, they gave up religion entirely to the point where my great grandmother, my nonna, she gave me her rosary beads that were really precious to her that had been blessed by Pope John Paul II, and she gave them to me. She was like, "You're Catholic. You're the only one." And I was
so
like, "I know.
I was
I know,
wrong.
Nonna."
Millennials are the biggest uptick. So take a look at this. So this is tracking Gen Z over the past 6 years, and 54% of women, and 52% of men in 2019. As of today, it's 67% of men and 61% of women. Major boost. Among millennials, 58% of women and 52% of men in 2019. Now it's 71% of men and 64% of women. The one thing that's really interesting is in the younger generation, men are overwhelmingly moving towards Jesus Christ. The question was, the percentage of U.S. adults by generation who say, quote, "I have made a personal commitment to follow Jesus that is still important in my life today."
They need inspiration and guidance, and they're not getting it from their parents, and they're not getting it from college.
And they're not getting it from the elites in Washington. They're not getting it from our elected officials. They're not getting it from anywhere else. So that makes perfect sense to me that they would turn towards the church.
I think there's two factors here. One is that conservatives had way more kids in the 2000s. So I talked about that ad nauseum, in fact, that it was like 1.8 for, no, it was 2.01 in the 2000s for conservatives and like 1.7 for liberals, or 1.43. And that meant that for every, 8 that were being born or whatever,
There were 3 that were aborted.
well,
That makes it for the point or half a kid.
that's probably true, actually. The reason the liberals were lower is because they were engaging in abortions. But this means that of the kids born, there's going to be 4 that are conservative and 3 that are liberal. So what do you do in 20 years? You are going to see a huge boost, 12% or so. And that's exactly what we've seen.
I can tell you what you do.
11.6%.
You import tens of millions of third worlders who are dependent upon the Democrats for their lives.
Indeed.
Oh, they're all so deeply
But-
generally Catholic.
But what I'm describing,
They're also impoverished, and they're dependent upon the
Most
government gives them
Latin American
housing,
countries are
medical
like-
care, food.
but I need to clarify. What I'm describing doesn't account for the fact that the same Gen Z cohort from 2019 has become more Christian. That implies an ideological shift over time. And Gen Z's eldest are 27 years old.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at this, we're talking about 21-year-olds who 6 years ago were atheist, and now a 15% increase among men that have come to the church, come to Christianity.
Well, what's happened in the last 6 years? A lot of bad stuff.
A lot of bad
Indeed.
stuff. And when you look at millennials, their entire life has been a slew of bad stuff. Over and over and over again, they've survived so many, once in 100-year, once in a century, catastrophic things that just keep happening one after another.
Actually, what I find fascinating about that idea that millennials have is what's actually once in a century or longer is the golden age in the 90s. After the fall of the Soviet Union, we had, that was it. America was the unipolar dominant power. The Cold War was over. And so Americans lived pretty dang well.
Yeah, we sure did, all the way up to the dot-com bubble.
I was just going to
But
say.
indeed. So there was this period of not even 10 years or so where millennials were growing up. So when the disasters start happening, they go, these are all once in a lifetime disasters. And it's like, actually, my grandfather lived through the Great Depression, 2 world wars, the assassination of Kennedy. Like, it was disaster. Yeah, his whole life was a series of
Cold War.
political disasters.
I would suggest this was deliberate. I came of age in the 80s. I went through high school and college in the 80s. 1980s America was a fundamentally different place than the United States today.
It was pretty good, right?
It was amazing.
There was
It
still
was
so
80?
much possibility, though. There was, we had
80 to
busted up
84.
a bunch of the monopolies.
That was the
We
time.
Yeah, I
had good
graduated high school in
antitrust
83.
enforcement.
So you were jamming with your buddies to Men at Work.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That was it. We'll never recover. That was the
AC/DC
greatest.
in my case, but
No, Men at Work, the greatest band of all time.
okay.
I mean,
We'll have to fight it out.
agree to disagree there.
The 90s were like the reward for what America had come through.
Like a reward.
It was like a
It did
reward
feel a
for
little
what
bit
we'd
like
come
that.
through. We had peace. There was money. I remember like I was, doing art and stuff, and there was just money everywhere. It's like our friends would go out, we'd have no money. Someone would buy us a bunch of oysters and champagne. Like, I don't know who paid.
Well, you were a young woman at the time.
I know, but I was out with like guys, girls, like it was, because you didn't date in the 90s. You just went out with a group of your 10 friends.
Was that what that show was about?
I don't know.
Real world?
No, Friends.
The 90s, I graduated high school in 98.
Yeah, I graduated before that, but like, yeah.
Wow, how old are you?
37. I graduated in 05.
You and me. I'm 39. These people.
I'm the
what
youngest
is
kid
going
at
on?
the table.
I'm
Well,
33.
No,
Serge is the youngest, but he's not talking.
yeah.
He won't admit to anything.
that's fair.
Stone.
Oh, there is a
God.
detective present.
Yeah, right. I forgot. Like, no one's supposed to talk to this guy. What are we doing? Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.